So my number two is a movie called Brad's Status from 2017, directed by Mike White of White Lotus fame, starring Ben Stiller, Austin Abrams, Jenna Fisher, Michael Sheen, Luke Wilson, a bunch of other folks. Quick log line. A father takes his son to tour colleges on the East Coast and meets up with an old friend who makes him feel inferior about his life choices. It's not the entire plot, but sure. Um, so I put this movie and I happened to watch it when it came out, actually.
Oh, really?
Uh, I don't know what made me, maybe the trailer, maybe Mike White,
Hmm.
what have you, but I don't know. I really enjoyed it when I watched it and I sort of stayed with me since. And the reason it has, I think, is because this to me speaks to at least me from like the midlife crisis time frame that now we are in, sort of early 40s.
Yeah.
And it's sort of interesting to see where people that we've known, or at least I've known, friends from grad school, what have you, who've gone on to have different kinds of lives, and some lives are with a lot of money and others aren't. And to me, the big kind of takeaway of this movie is that fear of missing out, or FOMO, as we say it,
Hmm.
can really F you up. If you're not centered on your life and what really matters, it's the same theme that we keep sort of coming back again and again. It can really, really make you miss and lose sight of what you actually do have if you start living your life always from the lens of comparing and comparison with other people. And I think
Right.
that's what this movie really gets to. But it's a very specific tone and a specific time in someone's life, which is, you're married, you have a kid, you're starting to now see your life kind of in the rear view mirror a little bit, because
Hmm.
you're seeing your kid's life take off in front of you, and it's sort of bringing up interesting parallels to who you were and how far you've come, and also how far and your friends have come and what does that mean. So it's a very midlife crisis kind of, acidic and often even annoying movie, but I think it does get at something. Had you heard of this movie or watched it before?
I'd heard of it, but I had
Mm.
not seen it. And actually going into it, I thought it was going to be for some reason more of a comedy than it ended up being.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it has comedic
it's got
elements.
comedic elements, but
Yeah,
I had to remind myself this was after Ben Stiller kind of stopped making out and out comedies and is
right.
sort of now in this other space. And Mike White goes back and forth between the two.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'd not seen it, but I had heard of it, and I really liked it a lot.
yeah,
It resonated with me in a lot of ways, and I thought it was talking about a lot of things, yes, around midlife crisis, etc. But for me, the main message, especially as it relates to money too, is you this attitude, which I definitely have had at different points in my life, of measuring your own life against other people, like in your
mm-hmm.
circle, comparisons, right? And money, because money is a measurable thing, is a very easy thing to be like, okay, well, my bank account is X, your bank account is Y, whichever one is bigger, well, then that person did better in this, metric, if we're using wealth, right, as that metric. Unlike things like happiness, you can't really quantify,
Right.
or feeling love, feeling seen, feeling safe. You can't put numbers on that. You have no idea what other people are feeling on those things. So it's easy to get caught up in the, oh, my friend from high school has now founded a company is in this way, or my other friend is now in politics, or my friend from business school, my friend from college has a successful
Right.
job here and they have this wealth. And you can very easily get wound up on that and then lose track of what you have. But it's not necessarily even what you have. It's like, what is important to you?
Yeah.
Because yeah, if money's the most important thing to you and that's the thing you care about, then yes, then that is an okay way to measure, because obviously, like, that's how you're going to go through life.
Right.
But if it's not, then it's don't don't forget that, right? And
Right.
start using money to do the comparisons.
Yeah. And it's also very specific on the times we live in, where earlier, when you didn't have social media or access
Right.
to other people's lives, if you knew friends who've gone on to make a ton of money and have a very different life from you probably wouldn't even see them, because you're
Mm-hmm.
obviously not in the circle. You wouldn't even get invited to their, big shindigs. But now, thanks to social media, you see their life constantly on display, which kind of is this kind of churning thing. And it makes some interesting observations that even those people who on the outside might look picture perfect, we don't know actually what is going on over there. How much
Right.
of that is real? Are those people really happy and content? Because, like you said, for somebody, money might have been their priority up till now, and hence they chased it and they
Mm-hmm.
got it.
Mm-hmm.
But is it still the priority? Has it changed? Maybe it has. And maybe you're now seeking something else because humans are complicated in some way in
Mm-hmm.
that sense, right? And you don't always stay to the same goalpost. So, yeah, it has those interesting kind of shades of gray across the board. Like, you can sympathize with the guy, Ben Stiller's character at times, but at times he's also a total jerk.
Right. Right.
You can look at, Martin Sheen or Luke Wilson or any of these people, and even Mike White, who shows up with his flamboyant gay life, is
Yeah.
hilarious. That was
Yeah.
hilarious to me.
Yeah. Very funny.
Uh, and you can judge them and look at them as jerks, but you can also empathize with them. Like you see Luke Wilson is dealing with some real tragedy in
Mm-hmm.
his life with his daughter's illness and such. So there's just, multiple layers to people. So, but ultimately, like you said, that is the message, that you have to stay clear on what do you value.
Right. Right.
And then I guess the other message is just that of kindness, to
Mm-hmm.
yourself and the people around you. Like the Martin Sheen character, who's famous, is on TV, has books, but none of his students actually like him.
Right.
He is
He's a
kind of a
jerk.
jerk.
Yeah.
So, to me, that says, how long is your legacy going to be? How much time is it before you get totally taken down because you treat somebody badly and then you're canceled? Like, that's in that character's near future, rightly or
For
wrongly,
sure. Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Right.
So, yeah, you got to be kind to
Mm-hmm.
people and be clear on what you value.
Right. It's like the cost. I think they did a good job of showing for some of these characters the cost of what that,
Yeah.
got them, whether it's Martin or not Martin Sheen, Michael Sheen.
Sorry, Michael
It's
Sheen.
no, I think I made that mistake. The his cost is clearly, he's a jerk, but he has the fame. And then Jermaine Clement is living this nice lifestyle on the beach, but he has drug problems,
Mm-hmm.
is an alcoholic. So that's the cost there. So, that's something to remind yourself of too. But really, like, again, it's like, don't compare yourself to other people in any way, which actually there's two scenes that I found really powerful to me. And then one of them is when Ben Stiller's in that bar talking to that young
Mm-hmm.
freshman,
Mm-hmm.
and she's sort of kind of dressing him down a little bit, like, stop whining, right? Like, you're saying all these things, look at the things that you have. And other people in other countries are like, I came from a place where there were starving people on the streets. And look, like, sure, yes, but that it's like her message of don't compare yourself to your friends and be sad about it is true. But then she's also then saying too, oh, but I'm comparing you to these other people, so you
Exactly.
shouldn't be sad. And it's like, okay, well, I thought it was complicated. I mean,
Yeah, it
I don't
was
know if they were trying to
complex.
say that, but it's a very complicated
Oh
thing.
yeah,
And she's sort of falling victim to the same thing she's trying to tell him not to do. Because it is easy
exactly.
to say, stop crying, Ben Stiller. Like, you're married, you got a nice wife, you have, a job that gives some meaning to you. You have a kid who's going to be a big success potentially in the music scene. Why are you like so sad? But again, it's like that's comparing him to other people with different problems. So
Yeah,
that wasn't fair, her criticism of him.
yeah,
But I thought that just shows how complicated the situation is. Because after seeing the film, and I really liked this movie a lot, went around and did some reading of just other reviews and people's opinions on it. And there were a lot of folks that were saying, oh, this is just a movie about some like middle-aged guy who's well off enough and he's whining. Like, he should not be whining. We'll have no sympathy for him
yeah. They
because
missed the point.
because there's starving people in the world. Then no
Yeah,
one can ever, unless you're some starving kid in Japan, like no
yeah,
one can feel sorry for you. It's like, no, like, Ben Stiller was going through some serious stuff, and
yeah.
he's learning some lessons, and I think growing as a person. At the end of the movie, which is the other scene I really liked, when he's listening to that performance in the theater, and it just so
Yeah.
all kind of clicks on him, is what's important to him is his son and the loves in his life. Though
Yeah.
oddly they leave the wife out of it, which I thought was kind of weird. Like, they should have brought her back in a
They
little
should
too.
have brought her
He was
back. Yeah.
unfairly kind of like slagging her off at various points in his visions, and I'm like, okay, whatever, I get it, but like, bring her back in at the end.
Yeah,
Like, come
no,
on, like she's
Jenna could
good.
only give 2 days of shoot.
Maybe
So
that's what
I think Jenna was like, thanks. I got other things to do. I have my own podcast about The Office. So I'm gonna,
that probably is what was going on. But no, those are the two scenes that really like resonate a lot with me too. And I think, this is a journey that I've struggled with too, like
yeah,
comparing myself and being in these circles and having very successful, financially successful friends. But that doesn't mean that they're happy. And, money is not the thing that is important to me. So all that I wish is that they have happiness in their lives, or that they're getting what they want. But I only compare myself to what I want from myself, not what others
exactly.
want from me or what I see in others. It's a tough
Exactly.
thing to do, though. I will admit it's hard, and Ben Stiller struggles with that, which I can relate to.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like you said, it's complex, right? Like one's pains and learning is relative to what you know. You can't just compare to the least common denominator in every scenario,
Right.
because that's just not a fair argument. But I also second, I've struggled with this too. Not crazy amounts for the most
Hmm.
part. I feel like I'm fairly good at just looking at my own life and what I value. But every now and then, questions have popped up that what if I stayed with that job longer and just
Right.
cashed in, or that would have afforded something else, or what have you. And then when I've had these conversations with my own partner and people, in my life, they always remind me is that it's life is about the total sum of it all. And you have to look at everything, not just how much money you have, how much access you have, but usually there are other things that are more important. So it's
Yeah.
it's always a good reminder that I can use sometimes.
No.
Not very
No.
often, but every now and then.
No, for sure. I mean, I fell victim to envy sometimes too, which is what this movie is kind of about as well. Like comparing is envy, right? You're envious, and money
Exactly.
creates feelings of envy, having it or not having it. I think that's one of the negative things about money is it brings a lot of envy, I think, into
Yeah.
situations that weren't there before. So,
Yeah. And I love on a movie standpoint, like Mike White, like obviously White Lotus is such a big success story, but I love
mhm.
this movie because I'm like, yeah, I was in on this early before a lot of people, caught on the Mike White
Yeah.
bandwagon, because he's trying a lot of that in this movie, I think.
Yeah.
Where, like you said, it's always complex. Like they're not obvious villains. Like everybody is kind of in the gray, and
Hmm.
every argument is a little bit in the gray as well. And if you look at it on the surface level, you can just dismiss it and just say, oh, here's another rich, privileged white guy
Right.
whining, like you said.
Hmm.
But no, there's more nuance to that. So I love that. And then last thing I wanted to say was it's a great father son movie too, because that's
Hmm.
another great dynamic at play. Like I didn't have this experience of going with my dad to look at colleges, but there's a part of this movie that makes me kind of emotional. There are scenes in the hotel room together, like goofing around,
Yeah.
and it sometimes now I'm old enough that I can identify as the son and as the father.
Hmm.
So there's like a whole father son dynamic to it. That, oh, is it does my dad look at me now and maybe thinks about things that maybe I got more of in life or less of in life, and how does that make him feel? So I don't know. Next time I see him, I'll ask him.
Yeah. You should have him watch the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah. I really liked it too. So thanks for putting this on the
of
list. Thought it was a
course.
fantastic film.
I'm glad you liked it.
Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now, or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.